Mate, rust so bad it ate straight through the floor before the car was even paid off. That's not some horror movie plot. That's a Holden showroom back in 1980, dead set. You know your uncle, the one who reckons his old Aussie family car never gave him a lick of trouble? He's not lying to you on purpose. He's just done what all of us do with a bad breakup, blocked the whole thing out. But here's the truth, mate. This country didn't just build some of the best family cars going around. It also cranked out some genuine four-wheel disasters. Cars that ate head gaskets for breakfast, cars that started rusting before the first loan repayment even cleared, cars that turned into a permanent joke at every Barbie for the next 30 years. Stick around till the end, because number 1 on this list still makes old school mechanics go dead quiet the second you say its name. Alright, let's wreck this list. Number 12, the Mitsubishi 380. This thing rolled into showrooms back in 2005 with about as much self-awareness as someone cracking a joke at a funeral. Only one engine on offer, a proper thirsty 3.8-litre V6, and it launched right as fuel prices went through the roof, and fleet buyers were legging it away from big 6-cylinder sedans as fast as they could. And then, get this, Mitsubishi looked at the Magna badge, a name people actually trusted, and just binned it like a bad habit. Buyers didn't follow them anywhere. Sales died instantly, dealers panicked into fire sale discounts, and there wasn't even a wagon for the families who actually needed one. Genuinely capable car, mate, marketed straight off a cliff, and it helped drag an entire local factory down with it. Number 11, the Lightburn Zeta. Most blokes have never even heard of this one, and honestly, that's probably a mercy. Early 60s, built by a company better known for washing machines and concrete mixers, who apparently reckoned a car couldn't be all that different. Turns out it was catastrophically different. This fiberglass-bodied thing didn't even have a proper reverse gear. To back out of your own driveway, you had to switch the whole engine off and restart it, spinning backwards, like some automotive party trick gone horribly wrong. Reviewers at the time genuinely didn't know what to write about it. Fewer than 400 were ever built before the company slunk back to making appliances in shame. And the Zeta became the textbook case of ambition, sprinting a full marathon past ability. Coming up, we've got a French sedan with brakes so wildly out of balance they had to retune the whole thing from scratch, and a Falcon that snapped like a twig the second it hit a dirt road. Number 10, the Chrysler Centura. One of the strangest, most unhinged stories on this whole list, mate. Chrysler took a delicate French body and jammed a massive Aussie Hemi 6 straight into the nose of it. Bold idea on paper. On the road, though, it was so nose-heavy, it practically dove for the tarmac under braking, and engineers had to go back and completely retune the brake balance just to stop it face-planting like your drunk uncle at a wedding. Then, just to really seal its fate, industrial action left the French-built shells sitting on salt air docks for months. Plenty of them arrived already rusting before they'd even been sold. A wildly unbalanced car with a rust head start baked right in at the factory. An absolute gift that kept on giving misery. Quick one, mate. Most people watching aren't subscribed yet, and that's totally fine. No pressure. But if you're enjoying the content, a subscribe genuinely helps. Either way, appreciate you watching. Number 9, the Holden Malibu. How do you follow up a car nobody wanted? Easy. Release one with even less personality. This thing was meant to go toe-to-toe with the Camry, but it had all the raw excitement of watching beige paint dry in slow motion. Named after a Californian beach that meant absolutely nothing to anyone standing in a Holden showroom in Dandenong, its styling evaporated from your memory the second you looked away. Basically, a rolling void dressed up as a sedan. Electrical faults kept popping up before it ever earned the trust Holden desperately needed. And buyers barely even clocked it existed before it quietly slipped into automotive witness protection. Number 8, the Austin Kimberly. 1970, and this one actually had some real guts behind it. A transverse front-wheel drive layout nobody else in its class dared touch back then. Early reviews genuinely raved about it, right up until an Australian summer got its hands on the cooling system and choked the life out of it. Overheating and blown head gaskets spread through word of mouth pretty fast, and the Kimberly's reputation cooked itself alive right alongside the engine block. You practically needed a mechanic riding shotgun and a jerry can of coolant just to make it to the shops and back. Clever engineering, mate. Absolutely torched by heat management. Nobody bothered to test properly. Up next, a British sedan running on engineering that was outdated before it even left the factory. A rebadge that flat out betrayed loyal buyers, and a Falcon that looked like the future, right up until the head gasket had other ideas. Number 7, the XK Falcon. Picture this. You've just driven home the sharpest, most modern-looking sedan on the whole street. A few months later, you're stranded on a dirt road staring at a front wheel that's completely given up on life. That was the XK's dirty little secret. Looked like a slice of American confidence, but Ford had barely tested it on local roads, and the suspension just wasn't built for what our corrugations dish out on a bad day. Betting an American-tuned chassis could survive the Outback was corporate overconfidence in its purest, most arrogant form. Tyres wore out at record speed, front ends kept failing, and for a while Ford tried quietly blaming the drivers before finally owning up to their own mess. Number 6, the Datsun 120Y. One of the best-selling small cars of the 70s, and also one of the most quietly roasted. Cheap to buy, cheap to run. Its bad name didn't come from what broke mechanically. It came from what happened to the metal under your feet. Thin steel and barely there rust proofing meant plenty of 120Ys had holes forming in the wheel arches before the finance was even paid off. People bought them purely for the price tag and kept them going out of pure stubbornness, not love. By the early 80s, finding a rust-free one felt like finding a park outside the footy on grand final day. Technically possible, practically a miracle. The car sitting at number 1 isn't just a bit rough, mate. Say its name to anyone who owned an Aussie car in the 80s and watched their whole face change on the spot. We're building to it properly, so stay with me. Number 5, the Holden Viva. How do you spectacularly betray your own loyal customer base in one move? Easy. Hand them a rebadged Daewoo wearing a Holden badge like a cheap, desperate disguise. The Viva rolled out in 2005 to reviews that politely called the styling unresolved, which is industry code for a genuine aesthetic disaster. Underneath, owners were reporting electrical faults, limp mode dropouts, transmission issues, throttle body problems, and endless timing, belt drama. Selling a car purely on decades of hard-earned brand trust is a dirty trick, and the Viva torched that goodwill fast. It vanished off the lots quietly in complete disgrace, and barely anyone even noticed it go. Deep breath, mate. We're into the final 4 now, and this is where it stops being funny and starts getting genuinely painful. Number 4, the EA Falcon. 1988. And this thing looked like a proper leap into the future. Sleek, aerodynamic, genuinely ahead of its time. Expectations across the country were sky high. Then reality landed like a sledgehammer. Overheating and head gasket failures became the EA's defining trait, made worse by shaky early quality control. Just imagine the frustration of driving your brand new, future-facing family sedan off the lot, only to watch the temp needle crawl toward the red before you've even hit the on-ramp. Throw in a run of electrical gremlins and transmission complaints, and you've got a genuinely brilliant design completely butchered by a build process that got rushed straight out the door. Number 3, the Leyland P76. British Leyland, already something of a national laughingstock, decided to have a crack at Australia with a car built on a shoestring budget. The P76 was actually pretty clever underneath. Spacious, famous for a boot supposedly big enough to swallow a 44-gallon drum hole. But the execution let it down badly. Window seals leaked constantly. Carpets came unstuck in surrender, and both the 6 and the V8 had a nasty habit of blowing head gaskets on a pretty regular basis. The wedge-shaped styling got compared endlessly to a brick that had mated with a torpedo. and its commercial collapse ended up tangled right up with the entire collapse of Leyland's Australian manufacturing operation. Number 2, the Holden Cruze. This should have been a dependable, unremarkable workhorse for a decade, mate. Instead, it became one of the most talked about used car warnings in the country. The 1.8-litre engine built a reputation for oil leaks and cracked oil coolers, letting oil contaminate the cooling system and turning what should have been a reliable daily driver into a genuine game of mechanical Russian roulette every time you turned the key. Service departments got flooded with owners demanding answers, and second-hand buyers were routinely told to steer well clear of the affected engines. An absolute masterclass in how fast a reputation can unravel overnight. And now the one everyone's been waiting for. Number 1, the Holden Camira. Meant to be the clever, efficient front-wheel drive future of the Australian family car. Instead, it became shorthand for everything that could possibly go wrong on 4 wheels. Early Camiras built a terrifying reputation for overheating, oil leaks, poor panel sealing, water intrusion, and rust that set in almost the second it left the lot. The body sealant shrank over time, letting water flood the cabin and rot out the floors of cars families were still paying off. Owning one was a genuinely miserable experience for people who just wanted an affordable, economical local car. Decades later, it's still the name Australians reach for when they want to describe a proper automotive disaster. So, mate, which one of these do you reckon actually deserves the title of worst Australian family car ever built? Is there one that got left off this list that should have made the cut? Drop it in the comments below. If you got something out of this carnage, a like genuinely helps, and subscribe for more. Cheers for watching. Catch you in the next one.